There's this sort of trajectory towards lightness and agility. The ability to virtualize hardware was the first step. The ability to kind of provision that at scale on demand, the cloud step, made us a little lighter. And we're now entering the next two steps, I think, which are containers, which are lighter than VMs, lighter than a cloud unit effectively, all the way up to the new thing, which is functionless or functional and serverless programming built on top of containers. Each of these is a faster, leaner, lighter way to operate, a lighter way to build code, ship code, manage code, and so on. I think the intersection between cloud and containers is now becoming clear, and it's becoming, people are now essentially starting to think about strategies to use containers, very much building on their sort of operational shift to the cloud. But that's just part of a journey that will continue.
And containers really help to drive that notion of focusing on your application and less about the infrastructure as that abstraction level is being increased through containers. Also, I'd point out that moving towards containers is really driving a set of standardization, the way in which the development teams package and distribute their images in a common, consistent manner, packaging up all their dependencies so that those can be shipped and run as containers in the cloud.
So with the machine container, like LXD, you can literally tar up the file system of a 1990s Linux box, right? A physical box, untar that into a LXD container, boot it, and now you've got that entire experience and all of its complexity and traditional stuff running in a container. You can't do that with a process container.
Oh, yeah. Well, but you can do it with a Docker image, with an OCI image.
Oh, no, you can't.
Yeah,
no,
I'm
absolutely not.
I'm doing it on my laptop, I can show you. You're mixing, like, you're getting caught.
You're not going to get the best of both worlds if you try to make one size fit all. A Docker container, a process container, is a beautiful thing, as long as you celebrate what's great about it.
But a Docker container, you're mixing the specific execution model of the Docker daemon, which is just one way of executing an OCI container, with a package format. And that's a mistake, because at the end, both are just tar files with a layering model. Containers give us a tool that's orthogonal to the previous steps in the time series, from bare metal or virtualization and all that, that helps us manage complexity. Right? Aggregate packaging and isolation with clean delegation.
In Cisco, we are working on a lot of them. They are immutable, they are a function. You don't change that function. You may patch that function. They run on a container because it's more convenient in the environment you're in. And there is this whole piece that has to do with the type of workloads. When you're stateless for a process container, is more interesting on a scaling out kind of an application. It's not going to apply for the database.
I think that it's important for an organization to set their goals clearly when they start trying to do any kind of migration, to understand where the savings are coming from when they do this and how it serves their business goals. I think in the financial industry, everybody is very aware of security. I think in other industries, security can take a back seat often, and usually when something goes wrong, someone starts to care.
So it becomes even more critical that you have an understanding with your provider that very clearly states the goals and expectations, and there has to be transparency there so that you can understand if they're meeting those goals, and when issues occur, there has to be a clear reporting capability so that you can then respond agilely as an organization to what your service provider is experiencing.
When there are obviously the two choices we've been talking about, one, there's certainly a time differential of doing a lift to shift versus doing rewrites, and what, from a business perspective, when Carlos, you were talking before about cutting costs and doing that, are there a set of business benefits that the executives should understand up front to help them make the decisions as to which way to go or how to approach it?
So Carl, to your question, when you talk with the customers, the typical kind of bullets or high-level business bullets or conversations that we are having them and trying to help them are basically around four topics. One is, how does that move affect my operations or my daily business? Second is, how security is going to be around that piece. Third is, how we're talking about the whole availability, the whole elasticity, if I need something fast, or how the whole agility, mainly from the line of business guys. And the last one has to do with costs. So it ends up wrapping around those 4 pillars on one end and another?
The ability to migrate between any cloud apps, it's kind of easier said than done, but for the most part, there is a kind of certain level, I don't know if abstraction is the right word, but kind of that model view we were talking about, that will allow you to kind of define the state of an application or a whole stack, and then that will make it more portable to move in between clouds, be it Amazon, a VMware, or even a physical server.
Container machine is fundamentally a series of processes, a set of related processes that are going to run. Whereas a single process container is exactly that, a single process, which actually lines up quite nicely with a microservice base. You probably choose that versus I've got a traditional monolith workload. I want to take the advantages of containers in my data center. If I don't want to change a lot of my existing processes, I'd probably move towards a containerized machine.
I guess
To that, I think one of the big pieces around automation and orchestration is simplification. I think everyone's trying to achieve simplification across the entire enterprise or entire service provider space. And then simplification, by definition, is going to drive costs down, which is what everybody's looking to achieve. And at a CIO level, I think at some point it needs to be somewhat measurable, right? Because there has to be a business justification, because the size projects, you can't get funded anymore.